Welcome to our channel, Life is for Living with David Riddell. I am your host and interviewer today. I'm Kylie Jane Buckley. So, David, your attitude, does it really, because attitudes change, so does it really represent who we are?
It's a very good question. And the answer is yes and no. Don't you love those answers? But, to begin with, do you even know that you have an attitude? It's not just a negative thing. Everyone has an attitude. For example, is it positive? Is it negative? Is it grateful? Are you known for being a grateful person or an ungrateful person? Are you known for being God acknowledging or God denying? That's an attitude. Are you known as a generous person or a selfish person? A peaceful person or an angry person? Are you a forgiving person or do you hold the grudge? Are you accepting responsibility for yourself or blaming everybody else? These are all attitudes, patient or impatient, flexible or stubborn and inflexible. And the person you're married to or the person you live with also displays attitude, don't they? Deeply biased or open to instruction and new truth, loving or unloving, free or enslaved. I could go on, but I won't. You got the idea. Mm-hmm. So wherever you stand and whatever you opt for, the question is the same. Does it still represent the person you are, the person you want to be? It is by your prayers that God knows who you are, but it is by your own priorities that you know who you are. Can I repeat that? It is by your prayers that God knows who you are, but it is by your own priorities that you will know who you are. So what do you call important, really important in your life? By your priorities, you can identify yourself. And by your attitude and actions, the world will identify you. Our goals, our attitudes, our priorities and choices all conspire together to reveal us. And the progressive revelation of just who we are, who we truly are, turns out to be the reason for our lives. As Christ said, let the wheat and the tares grow together until they may easily be distinguished at the final harvest, said the Lord to his harvesters, didn't he? Mm-hmm. So I have concluded that in the day of harvest, everyone will prove to be either a moth or a cockroach, either humbly and transparently searching for and orbiting the light that has come into the world, or scurrying for their lives back into the darkness, lest their shame, their corruption, their egomania, to borrow a phrase from Freud, be revealed for everyone to see. But referring back to my original thesis, do we spend our lives discovering who we are as if we somehow existed in a previous life and now must locate and recreate that character to be truly authentic? Or do we actually create who we are to some degree every single day? Thought by thought, habit by habit, attitude upon attitude, choice by choice, we build up an eternal character until the day comes when we must sign our own composition. We will sign our portrait before our source and Heavenly Father, and we will sign it all permitted by my sovereignty, sovereignty being my right to self-determinate. In other words, all brushstrokes laid down with my permission. It is God who gave us a spirit and a body, and in so doing, gave us the gift of life, but it is we who give him back our character, for nothing was built into it that we ourselves did not permit. And in my school, the Living Wisdom 2-week course, and my composition of it is dedicated to the cause of trying to make sure to make absolutely certain that that moment of harvest, of handing back what we have composed and recomposed, what we have called success, will be a moment of great joy and not one of tears, bitter regret, and deep sorrow. A sorrow that just might not ever end. And so we are about kingdom business and living wisdom. In my studies of psychology, philosophy, and theology, I have become convinced that they are not disintegrated. They all work together to bring about self-definition, which is the end game of sovereignty. You have sovereignty, Kylie, to become anybody you want to become, and so do I. And so does every person listen. The question is, will that character we are creating work for us or against us in the great tally up? What do you think?
Sobering. Yeah, it's very sobering, isn't it?
It is.
Really
It
is. And
is.
these are the things that we all must hear, because this is the reality. This is the reality. And, if we've been on the wrong path, if we've had bad behaviors or thoughts and patterns, we can change it. And it's actually not that difficult. As soon as you get a truth that replaces the lie, it's just like turning the light on in a dark room. It's gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. And I'm a witness to that. That's happened to me actually on more than one thing through doing your course.
You could think of final judgment as quite simply reality breaking in on manifold delusions, multiple delusions. When reality breaks in, it reminds me of a time that I got back from an extended overseas tour studying church growth in multiple nations of the world. I thought my budget was holding out nicely. And when I finally got back to my home country in New Zealand, I would have enough to launch again. Imagine my horror when I discovered that there was a total delusion. It just takes two red letters on your bank statement, OD, which I discovered stands for oh dear, that you can be dragged into reality in a heartbeat, because my self-satisfied delusion was shot to bits as soon as I saw the overdrawn statement on my bank balance. And I was amazed at how fast my delusion was shattered.
Then it could work in a different way too. Like for me, I was in delusion that I carried shame for something that happened to me as a little girl, and I lived out of that. Now, that was delusional. And that's why I came to see you, David, because I wanted to work out why it is that I seem to connect with men that are abusive. Can I meet a nice guy like everyone else does? What's wrong? And I had counselling years ago, and I went around the Rolby bush and never came to any conclusion or solution. So I never went back to any other counselling until I came to see you. And then the lies I was living under, the illusion that I had to be shameful for something that doesn't belong to me. It was nothing I was involved with. It's nothing I did. So that blew it open for good. So it can work both ways.
Childhood can be understood as a time of orientation, and many children emerge into adult life not orientated but disorientated. And so, as a result of that disorientation regarding shame, regarding sexual attraction, regarding values, we need to take seriously the need to reorientate. In aviation, they call it swinging the compass to test if it's true. And in life, we need to reorientate if we've been disorientated by poor parenting, by trauma, by traumatic experiences, and even physical and sexual abuse, emotional abuse. We emerge from childhood often disorientated. And that's where people like myself can be useful as counselors and life coaches, just helping adults reorientate because the world is not what they were set up to expect.
Yes. Well, it certainly reorientated me, and
Doing well.
yeah, totally. Now it's just wonderful. Yes. So, this is another reason why I thought let's do these interviews, because so many people out there are disorientated. And to be fair, maybe I had been as well all those years. I believe so, and never really um, sort of had that, had the right advice in that area to be able to put that back to where it belonged. Even though I thought I had, I was still living out of it because of probably the wiring of my brain was.
And for those listeners who like to read, I'll recommend 3 or 4 books right now in quick succession. Healing for Damaged Emotions by David Seamans is a great book to help you reorientate. It's called Healing for Damaged Emotions, and it's by David Seamans. It's a great book and a good beginning book. Another one would be Stop Walking on Eggshells, where you've been taught to fear manipulation and coercion and the bullies in life. And another one I would also want to recommend is M. Scott Peck's book, People of the Lie. Those kind of books can really help people start the journey of reorientation. And I've already mentioned the Bacchus book, Telling Yourself the Truth.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you, David. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about attitude?
I'm just going to finish with one quote that I think is a real doozy. Hey, I was born in the 50s. Doozy was a big word back in the day. It got replaced by awesome, but I prefer doozy. It's by New Zealand's greatest doctor, the first holistic doctor New Zealand really ever had. His name is Ulrich Williams. And he says this, which I think is amazing. He said that carnal people do not hold beliefs. Rather, carnal people are held, bound, and enslaved by those beliefs. And only as they become aware of them do they discover the alternative freedom available to them. At that moment, they face a crisis of identity, of future, of life, in order for their conscious mind to develop the necessary degree of humility and authority. Carnal people are held by their beliefs. Spiritual people hold beliefs. And spiritual people know that those beliefs can be renounced and let go of the day they are discovered to be inadequate. What do you think of that one, Kylie?
Yeah, very profound, very correct. And I can see that in my life now too, that I've discovered things that, and it's about holding beliefs. It's like you are cognitively thinking something. You are aware of what you believe instead of just living out mindlessly.
That's right. That's right. Have you ever heard of Dr. Ulrich Williams?
No.
He's one of New Zealand's unknown heroes.
Right.
Mm. In fact, he was the pioneer of functional medicine in New Zealand back in the 30s and 40s.
Mm.
I say functional medicine as opposed to symptom-based medicine.
Right. Natural medicine.
Allopathic medicine deals with symptoms. Functional medicine deals with causes.
Right.
There you go. That'll do for the time being. I think
Right.
that our listeners, watchers, observers, plenty to think about, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Thank you, David. And we look forward to another session with David Riddell. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.